What's happening? A happy Friday to all of you. Thanks for joining me as always. It is very much appreciated. Let's start with some news as far as the injuries go for the Bears versus the Patriots on Sunday. Montez Sweat looks like he's going to return. He has 24 pressures on the season for Chicago. He missed last weekend's game, but Chicago will be without their starting left tackle, Braxton Jones. If you look at what happened last weekend, their backup left tackle gave up 3 sacks and 7 pressures, so that's an issue. And they are also going to be without their starting right tackle in Darnell Wright. So both starting tackles for the Bears will be out of this game on Sunday. For the Patriots, Kyle Duggar, he's going to be out. And Christian Ellis, who has been starting at linebacker, is going to be out. So that's not great news for the Patriots' run defense, which, of course, needs a whole heck of a lot of help. Beyond the injury report stuff, let's look at the big picture for Sunday. The quarterback battle, the quarterback showdown. Caleb Williams, first pick in the draft, versus Drake Maye, third pick in the draft. These two guys will be forever linked. They will be forever compared. Chicago fans will look at Drake Maye and wonder if they should have drafted that guy. Patriots will look at it and say, I'm wondering if we made the wrong choice in Drake Maye. If only we could have had a shot at Caleb Williams. These two guys will be linked forever. Williams has been hot and cold. Maye has been improving by all accounts. Big picture topic number 2. Gerard Mayo stressed urgency this week. Will the Patriots play with urgency? Will they actually coach with urgency? Because I would question the idea that the Patriots have been coaching with urgency. And if Mayo is asking for urgency from the team, I hope the team is asking for urgency from the head coach. Mayo was also asked about considering changes to the staff this week. He said, nothing in this world is guaranteed. DeMarcus Covington, is he feeling the heat, not doing a good enough job as defensive coordinator? Alex Van Pelt, is he feeling the heat, not doing a good enough job at offensive coordinator? So you've got a coaching staff who has been questioned really by their head coach in a certain way, a diplomatic way, but they have been questioned more recently. And you have Mayo stressing urgency from his football team. Feels like they want to win, feels like they believe they need to win, and they have to change something. So what will we see on Sunday? Patriots, Bears. Let's start with the Patriots defense versus the Chicago offense. Shane Waldron is the offensive coordinator for the Chicago Bears. He was a name that was brought up in the offseason here in New England, has a very good track record as far as who he's coached for. He's a Sean McVay guy. But this Chicago offense has been a mess. It's an absolute mess. They are 27th in offensive DVOA. They look like they have no idea what each other want to do offensively. And there's a lot of heat on Shane Waldron. A lot of people questioning whether or not he's on the hot seat. If Chicago loses on Sunday, it would not be out of the question that Waldron gets fired on Monday. We just saw Luke Getsy get canned earlier this week. So Waldron is on the hot seat. He needs to figure things out in Chicago for this offense, and he needs to figure those things out quickly. They are not an exotic offense. They do a lot of, fun, tricky things. They're bottom 5 in the league in motion. Waldron is not running a Sean McVay offense, even though he's from the Sean McVay tree. There's not a lot of motion pre-snap. There's not a lot of motion at the snap. This offense for Chicago feels an awful lot like the offense for New England. Old school, West Coast kind of feel. That's what Chicago's been doing. The first thing we look at, can the Patriots defense overwhelm Caleb Williams? He tweaked his ankle last weekend. Couple of things that I see from Caleb when I watch these games back. I watched the Arizona game back after watching some of it live. I've watched him a couple of other times this year. One of the biggest issues for Caleb Williams is that he takes sacks. He unnecessarily hangs on to the football. He's always trying to extend plays. Now, sometimes that will work. A lot of times it doesn't. And when you look at what Williams has done this year, he's been super streaky. Got off to a bad start, had 2 or 3 games where he was super hot, and then the last 2 weeks, he hasn't been very good. So he's been very streaky. He's 25th in passer rating, 27th in QBR. He's 27th in yards per attempt. And when you think about extending plays and you think about what Caleb Williams did at USC, you usually think of explosive plays. Evan Lazar noted this week that Chicago is 27th in the NFL in explosive play rate. So they're not creating those explosive plays. These extensions by Caleb Williams, they're not creating opportunity downfield. So this has not been an explosive offense, which is fascinating because you have so many weapons. Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, DeAndre Swift. You've got the first pick in the draft at quarterback. You have all of these weapons that should scream explosion offensively, but yet that's not what you get from Chicago. 27th in explosive play rate. Caleb is 26th in completion percentage over expected. He's 29th in EPA, expected points added. If you're wondering, Caleb Williams, his EPA is minus 41.9. To put that in perspective, Jacoby Brissett is the quarterback that is one slot behind Caleb Williams in that statistic. So Caleb is a minus 41.9. Brissett is a minus 42.7 when it comes to expected points added. Williams has statistically, analytically been as bad as Jacoby Brissett. So you Patriots fans, you know what that looks like. Now, Caleb is much different, right? He's more athletic. He extends plays more often. But when you look at effective play, he just has not been steady this year. All right, before we continue with thoughts about this Patriots defense against this Chicago offense, do a couple of things for me. Help us out here on the podcast. You could do that by not spending any money if you don't want to, not spending a ton of time if you don't want to. Just a few things you can do. You can click that thumbs up on the YouTube channel as you watch this. More thumbs up means more eyeballs. That's engagement for the YouTube algorithm. So make sure you like the podcast. Also, make sure you throw a comment in. My guy, Burley Sullivan, playing Captain Obvious today. Patriots defense stinks. Thank you, Burley. Corey Callahan, Pat's defense has always done well against rookie quarterbacks. Let's see if they can confuse Caleb a little bit on Sunday. Of course, that was when Bill Belichick was in town. How much of a difference will we see this year? We'll see how it all comes together. But you can throw a comment in just like Corey did and Burley did. That helps engagement. So don't forget to like, don't forget to comment, and don't forget to subscribe. We're under 100 subscribers away from our goal of 5,000 before Thanksgiving. All right, let's keep going with this Patriots defense against the Chicago offense. Can the Patriots defense stop the run? They have not been able to stop the run consistently over the past 7-8 weeks. They did better in the second half against the Jets. They took a step back again last week. They got run all over in that overtime by Tennessee. Tennessee looked the Patriots in the face, and they said, we're going to run down your throat, and the Patriots defense could do nothing about it. Swift is explosive. He can break one. He can impact this game. He could also make life miserable against linebackers, especially considering that Christian Ellis is going to be out of this game on Sunday. You're probably going to see a lot of Raekwon McMillan out there along with Sione Takitaki. And Swift, if Chicago tries to pick apart those matchups, they get Swift on a linebacker. That could be a disaster for the Patriots because Swift can receive. He can run different routes on the route tree, and he's a guy that could give all sorts of problems to these linebackers of the Patriots. I would also anticipate Chicago trying to attack the perimeter of the Patriots defense and their run defense because we saw Tennessee have some success doing that. So I would not be surprised by some tosses to Swift on the outside, try to get him outside the tackles to force cornerbacks and safeties to make plays. Tennessee did that a lot last weekend. They went to the perimeter, and they forced the Patriots defensive backs to make plays, to make tackles. And I would be surprised if Chicago does not do that this weekend. Mike Giardi posted this on Twitter. Swift has 615 scrimmage yards since week 4. Only Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, and Bijan Robinson have more yards from scrimmage than Swift. So Swift has been productive. But the Bears' run game has been inconsistent. They're only 23rd in success rate. So when they pop a run, but they don't consistently churn out yards in the run game. 23rd in success rate. They're 28th in rushing yards over expected. But Their offensive line has done a pretty good job. They're 5th in run block win rate. Of course, I remind you, they'll be down their starting tackles this weekend. How much does that change the dynamic up front in the run game? Maybe you see a little bit more Roschon Johnson. Khalil Herbert was dealt this week at the trading deadline. So we'll see how, all of that works out. And just to underline Tennessee's attack last week, running the football on the perimeter, Andrew Callahan wrote this. This was the adjustment. Remember, we talked about the Patriots playing more man coverage, putting 5 or 6 guys at the line of scrimmage. Tennessee saw that in how they responded, and adjusted to it. The Titans, again, forced the Patriots defensive backs to defend the run. The Titans called 16 runs outside the box. Those 16 runs, they average almost 6 yards per carry. And Callahan points out they would pull their offensive tackles out as lead blockers, which again leads us to wonder, does Chicago feel like they can do that with their backup tackles? When Tennessee ran inside, they weren't nearly as effective. So Tennessee ran the football 16 times outside the box last week, got almost 6 yards a carry. They ran 16 times between the tackles and averaged only 3.5 yards per carry. So the Patriots on the interior actually did a good job against the run last week. It's on the outside, the perimeter, where they got hurt, which is why I think we should anticipate Chicago running the football on the perimeter an awful lot on Sunday. All right. Tons of weapons. Again, Moore, Allen, Swift. I forgot Cole Kmet. Even though I watched the game against Arizona, Cole Kmet was on the back of a milk carton. I have no idea what the hell's going on. But Shane Waldron did not get the football to Cole Kmet. Kmet is a very talented tight end, but they haven't used him a lot. At least they didn't last week. So I don't know how much of a role he'll play on Sunday. With all of that talent and weaponry they have, Chicago's 30th in yards per play. Again, I highlight, this has not been a very explosive offense for the Chicago Bears. That could change on Sunday because it's the Patriots defense. You never know. But going into this game, this team has struggled picking up chunk plays. And they've looked a little bit all over the place offensively. DJ Moore left the field last week in the middle of a play. He said he turned his ankle, but he just walked off the field. Again, there's a lot of questions about Shane Waldron, the play caller. But the Patriots, if they want to have success on Sunday, they've got to limit the run. They have to limit the run because if they can do that, Chicago will be in trouble. Chicago is the second worst offense in football on third down. They stink on third down. So if you limit them on first and second, if you limit that run game, and you put this game in the hands of Caleb Williams and it's third and medium, third and long, Chicago's going to have a very difficult time moving the football because they literally have one of the worst third down offenses in football, the second worst in the NFL. Patriots might have some openings to create pressure. Maybe they can get some pressure on Caleb Williams. Of course, he's going to try to extend. He's going to run around. They're going to have discipline. But they could get pressure on Williams on Sunday. You've got Chicago without their starting offensive tackles. And then you look at what Chicago has given up this year. 4th worst pressure rate in football. This offensive line has had all sorts of trouble protecting Caleb Williams. Williams doesn't make it much better because he holds on to the football forever. But this pressure rate that the offensive line is giving up, it's not good. 4th worst in football. And last week against Arizona, the pressure rate was almost 40%, which isn't very good. Some of that on Williams. Some of that Arizona played some games up front. And also Arizona sent multiple times cornerbacks and safeties on blitzes. I would not be surprised if DeMarcus Covington throws a couple of safety or cornerback blitzes at this offensive line because Chicago had some issues with that last week against Arizona. And teams aren't even blitzing Chicago a lot. 17th in opponent blitz rate, but they're still getting home. The Patriots, meanwhile, last week against Tennessee, they got pressure on the Titans. Last week, they were 8th in the NFL in pressure rate, 41.7% pressure on Tennessee. So if the Patriots can create that pressure, speed up Caleb Williams, limit the run on first and second down, It's going to be a tough game for Chicago to move the ball based off of what they've done so far this year. A lot of ifs. Can the Patriots limit the run? Can the Patriots get to Caleb Williams in this offensive line? Can the defense get off the field? One thing that we're seeing now is because the defense has had so many issues getting off the field, is that a lot of these guys defensively on the Patriots, they're actually taking a lot more snaps than they have in the past. And it's starting to stack up. And the defense gets tired late in games because they're not very deep up front. They're dealing with injuries as well. So Evan Lazar wrote about this, the Patriots' defensive snaps. Anthony Jennings played a career-high 76 snaps last week. Keon White, he had 65 plays against Tennessee. Daniel Iguale, he just crossed his career high in snaps for a single season. So a lot of guys, 3, 4 guys, 5 guys on this defensive line, they're playing more snaps than they've ever played before. And that's starting to catch up a little bit. So you've got to get off the field. You have to get off the field against this Chicago offense. All right, I'll get to Drake Maye and the Patriots offense in a minute. But first, let's jump to some super chats. Backyard Cyclist with a $20 super chat. Thank you. I appreciate the 20. I saw your podcast with yourself and Bedard. My take is I would 100% take Maye over Williams. That's my gut instinct. And that was during the draft. Seems to be coming to fruition, but everything else is a fail. So the Maye versus Williams conversation, which quarterback you would rather have? Talent-wise, I think Caleb Williams is there, right? Caleb Williams is absolutely there. If you asked me before the draft, if you asked me during the draft, Caleb Williams was my number one quarterback in this draft. I could end up being horribly wrong, but I think he has immense talent. The question is leadership. Is Caleb the kind of leader that works in the NFL? And you can look at how Caleb Williams handles some questions in post games, and you can compare that to how Drake Maye handles some questions in the post game. And Drake Maye, there's no arguing, Drake Maye is much better than Caleb dealing with distractions and dealing with the questions, dealing with the media, the leadership on the field. Drake Maye is ahead of Caleb with that. Maye also has a much bigger frame than Caleb Williams. And if you're concerned about smaller quarterbacks, Caleb is a smaller quarterback. Maye is 6'4", 225. He can probably get to 235 within the next couple of years. He's a big dude. He's a bigger guy. Caleb's hovering around 6 feet. But when you talk about talent, Caleb Williams has a ton of talent. And I think what we see in Chicago, at least some of it, is the offensive system and what's going on there. Now, Drake Maye is not, getting a great offensive system here either. Caleb has much better weapons than Drake has. But Shane Waldron's having a tough time. Van Pelt's having a tough time. We're only a few games in. I'm not ready to sit here and tell you that Drake Maye will end up being a better NFL quarterback than Caleb Williams after, 4 or 5 starts. I'm not there yet. But the intangibles, there's no doubt Drake Maye has the intangibles. Thank you, Backyard. I appreciate it. Matt Owens jumps in with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Matt, for the 5. Hey, Nick, sorry I haven't been engaging as much as I used to. Been super busy with school. Well, that's important. Stay busy with school. Just wanted to hop on and show my support. 5,000 is close. Yes. Thank you for the support. And we are less than 100 subscribers away from hitting that goal of 5,000. And I do not pay for fake subscribers. There are no bot subscribers. These are actual subscribers. All of your support means the world to me. So again, you can like the show to help out, beat that algorithm. You can also comment on the program. That helps. And of course, subscribe, hit that notify bell as well. Matt, thank you. And if you're listening to Spotify, Apple Pods, don't forget to rate and review. ATH, after the huddle, $5 super chat. Thanks for the 5. We're not dead yet. Though having COVID makes you feel like it. Hopefully, Mayo and company can contain Caleb similarly like Bill did with rookie quarterbacks. Yeah. Look, Caleb is going to run into some trouble on his own, and he doesn't do the best job of recognizing pressure at times. He gets fooled at times, and he's going to be dealing with 2 backup tackles, which is not ideal for Chicago. So there could be some problems for Caleb on Sunday. And, he has taken care of the football better than he did at USC. I think he does have 4 fumbles, which is a problem, but his turnover-worthy plays are like under 2%. Drake Maye's is much higher. So he has taken care of the football better. but he's not creating those explosive plays. He's taking too many sacks, and, he just hasn't been efficient. So we'll see if DeMarcus Covington and Mayo can do something about that on Sunday. Backyard is back, $10 super chat. Thank you, Backyard. We have 225 characters max, Nick. Tough to make my entire point. So with the rest of my comment, F it, friend. Cheers. Thank you. Your research and hard work. Well, thank you, Backyard. I appreciate you. I don't know why we have the 225 max. It's a YouTube thing, but I appreciate you, Backyard. And Burley says he just subbed. Well, thank you, Burley, for subbing. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your coworkers, tell your fellow Patriots fan. All right. Patriots offense versus Chicago's defense. Let's get into it. Matt Eberflus, not a good head coach, but he's a good defensive coordinator. And you could say he's a very good defensive coordinator. The offense, as we talked about, for Chicago, 27th in DVOA. But defensively, Chicago is 11th in DVOA. So their defense has played well. Now, of course, they haven't played well in the run game and the pass game. They've played very well on one side, not so well the other. We'll get to that in a minute. But let's start with the Patriots offensive line. What are they going to do on the offensive line? Now, if we did this podcast yesterday, you would have seen my head implode talking about the O-line, because yesterday we were bombarded by news and quotes about Mike Onwenu playing left guard. And it certainly seemed like yesterday Onwenu would be playing left guard on Sunday. However, writers today at practice seemed to back away from that and said it's not necessarily a guarantee that Onwenu plays left guard on Sunday. I do not want Onwenu playing left guard. And I understand the idea. The left guard position has been tough. Michael Jordan has fallen back. First month and a half, he was really solid. Last couple of weeks, he's been pretty bad. I understand wanting to try to find a different answer at left guard, but I'm not moving Onwenu to left guard. I'm not doing it. You've messed around with Onwenu way too much. We all know he is best at right guard. Stick him at right guard and keep him at right guard. Stop messing around. You keep fiddling around with this offensive line. They're not getting continuity. You had the genius idea last week. How did that work out? Didn't work out well. If you move Onwenu to left guard, to me, it's just a nonstop screwing around with one of your better players. And Doug Kyde tweeted this out. Here's what Onwenu has done this year, okay? At OTAs, Onwenu was playing right tackle. At the end of minicamp, he was playing right guard. At the end of training camp, he was playing right tackle. By week 5, he was back at right guard. Week 7, he was at right tackle. Week 8, he was back at right guard. The start of week 9 last week, he was back at right tackle. And of course, late in the first half of last week's game, the Patriots coaching staff realized they made a huge mistake putting Onwenu back at right tackle, so then they put him back at right guard. And now we're talking about maybe playing him at left guard. He hasn't been very good this year. He hasn't been as good as we expected him to be. You have to look at the fact that you've moved him around so much as at least a possibility as to why he's not playing as well as he has in the past. Stop messing around with the young man. Play him at his natural position, where he's best at, and keep him there. You have City So, who's played left guard. Figure it out. It's outrageous. It's crazy. The offensive line should be Vidarian Lowe, So or Jordan at left guard, Brown at center, Onwenu at right guard, Jacobs at right tackle. Evan Lazar wrote about the offensive line versus Tennessee. We talked about this after the game. It made no sense to put Onwenu back at right tackle after the offensive line had played pretty well a couple of weeks preceding. They actually had some continuity and chemistry up front, and Lazar underlined that this week. Layden Robinson was on the field for the first 4 drives when Maye was under pressure on 44.4% of his dropbacks. So when Robinson was at right guard, Maye got pressured 44.4% of the time. When they took Robinson out and put Onwenu back at right guard, the rest of the game, Maye was pressured only 29%. Owenu at right guard, Trey Jacobs at right tackle settled things down in pass protection. And I know the run game hasn't been very good, but I don't put that as much on the offensive line for their performance. And I'll explain that in a minute, because the next thing I got to talk about is whether or not New England will be able to run successfully against this Chicago defense. Now, I watched the Arizona game live. I then went back and watched it again. And, man, Arizona just ran the football down Chicago's throat. Just ran it down their throat. A lot of gun runs. And it wasn't Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray didn't run at all. He had like 7 rushing yards. Connor killed him. Connor absolutely killed him. They had other guys in the mix. A late first half touchdown with seconds left on the clock. Chicago's run defense sucked last week against Arizona. There should be some kind of opportunity here. And it's not just against Arizona. When you look at Chicago's defense against the run, it's been bad, period. End of sentence. They are 30th in the NFL in rush defense DVOA. They are one of the worst run defenses in football. 29th in yards per carry. 27th in run stuff percentage. Now, Chicago is 8th in third down defense. The Patriots are 25th third down offense, which we go back to this idea of, can you run the football on first and or second down? Because what's happening is the Patriots are not running the football effectively on first and second down. So you run on first down, you get 2 yards, 2nd and 8. You run on second down, you get 1 yard. Now you're looking at 3rd and 7. The reason why this Patriots offense is struggling at times is because they're behind the chains. They're not getting really any production from their early down run game. So Drake Maye is out there trying to make plays on 3rd and medium or 3rd and long. You have to get some run game. If you can get some good run game on 1st and 2nd down and you get to 3rd and short or 3rd and medium, your offense will be much better off. But we can go through all of those stats that I just gave you about the Chicago run defense. Inevitably, the question is, can the Patriots actually run the freaking ball? No matter who's playing defense. We've seen this movie before, right? Bad run defenses and the Patriots still can't run the ball against them. Evan Lazar wrote about the run game since Drake Maye started week 6. Since Drake Maye has been the starting quarterback, the Patriots run game is 29th in EPA per rush. They're dead last in success rate. They're dead last in yards before contact. They're the only team, by the way, in the red when it comes to yards before contact. Minus 46. They're the only team in the red in that statistic. They are dead last in average expected running yards, which is the offensive line run blocking. They have literally been the worst run offense in football since Drake Maye took over as the starting quarterback. The worst. And so here's what I want to bring up. I don't put it all on the offensive line. What are you talking about, Nick? I put some of this, if not most of this, actually on Alex Van Pelt. You can listen to Evan Lazar. You can listen to Greg Bedard and others who break down every scintilla of the film, and they will tell you, Alex Van Pelt, he has to embrace running downhill. He has to embrace running more duo, combination blocks up front, getting to the second level, because that's where they run best. Ramondre Stevenson is better running those plays. This outside zone stuff that they've tried has been failing over and over and over again. So I'd like to see them just run more power downhill, because if you can run successfully against this Chicago defense, that will open up things for Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper for some big plays, because Chicago's had some issues against tight ends. They had some issues last week against Arizona's tight ends. So you can create those opportunities, but you got to run the football early. Do I have confidence? No. Tough matchup for Drake. If you look at this Chicago pass defense, it's difficult. They're actually number 10 in pressure rate, so they do get to the quarterback. Now, I will throw a couple of caveats on that. Chicago is 10th in pressure rate, but Andrew Billings is out for the year. He was 6th in defensive tackle pass rush win rate this year. So that's a huge loss for this Chicago defense and this Chicago pass rush. Billings has been a monster in the middle. Also, Darrell Taylor is questionable. He did not practice today, and he has been one of the best edge pass rush win rate guys in football. So they lost Billings, their best pass rusher from the interior, when you look at pass rush win rate. Darrell Taylor, their edge, one of their edges, he's questionable, didn't practice today. So the pass rush for Chicago will come down to Montez Sweat, who did not play last week, but looks like he's going to play this week, and Gervin Dexter Sr. That's right, I said it. Gervin Dexter Sr. He's 11th in defensive tackle pass rush win rate. I question whether or not Alex Van Pelt will game plan for any of this. We'll have to wait and see. Chicago plays lots of zone, tons of zone, almost 80% of the time. This defense plays zone, which makes you wonder, will Drake Maye be capable of running as much on Sunday? Because Drake Maye has taken advantage of defenses playing man. They play man, he sees it, he takes off, right? Get zone, it's a little bit more difficult. So will so much zone play impact Drake Maye's ability to create that extra yardage with his legs? Chicago's defense also, they do a great job at forcing turnovers. 15 takeaways. A ton of takeaways for this defense. And we know that Maye's had some issues with ball security. I wonder, will the Patriots get Javon Baker some snaps? I'd like to see Baker out there playing a little bit more. I'd play him a few more snaps. I'd take a couple snaps away from Kendrick Bourne, and I would, see if Jalen Polk can survive out there for a couple of snaps. If he can't, then Baker. I'd like to see Javon Baker get a shot. He's a big play threat. And Evan Lazar pointed out that Baker ran 2 good routes. He only had 4 snaps, but he ran 2 good routes last week. He was open on a deep post, but pressure ruined the play. And then he also separated on a backside dig, but again, pressure ruined the play. So if Drake Maye had protection, Baker probably would have come up with 2 big plays if Drake could have hit him. He only ran 4 routes. Give me more Javon Baker. As far as he's taking care of himself off the field, if there are no issues off the field, then I want to see more Javon Baker on Sunday. Instead of 4 snaps, can you get him 10 snaps? Can you get him a dozen snaps? Finally, about this Patriots offense versus Chicago defense, can the Patriots score enough? Can they score touchdowns? Chicago has the 3rd best red zone defense in football. So you might be able to move it between the 20s, but once you hit that 20-yard line, once you hit that red area, Chicago has the 3rd best defense in football. It's going to be very difficult for the Patriots to finish drives. And that makes sense because Chicago, their strong suit is the pass defense, right? So as you get to the 20-yard line, the field shrinks. Things condense. And so if you're better against the pass and you're in that kind of condensed field, you can make life miserable for offenses. So the Patriots, they're 19th in red zone offense. So can they score enough? Can they finish drives? All right, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to this podcast. All of those things help. Let me jump to a couple of more super chats before I get to my prediction. Kyle Kirk, the $10 super chat. Thank you, Kyle, for the 10. Offensive line is so important, having to run 12, 22, 13 personnel for quarterback protection, run penetration, cuts into reps and games, practice for the wide receiver room. Really hurts when you're trying to develop young receivers. Yeah, Kyle, this is a part, we've talked about it a little bit. The Patriots' most efficient, their best offensive personnel grouping has been 12 personnel, 2 tight ends. The problem is when you play 2 tight ends, you can't get Pop Douglas on the field for most of that time because you're playing a bigger lineup, right? You're trying to establish pass protection, but you're also trying to establish the run game with the 2 tight end sets. Pop Douglas, smaller in frame, is not going to help you block, right? So Pop Douglas, when you look at 11 personnel, that's when you can play Pop a lot. So when you're playing those kind of personnel groupings, when you're playing 12, then that's going to impact it. So yes, that plays a role. Absolutely plays a role. I think the offensive line has been decent enough in pass protection, at least, to not have to protect those guys all the time. It depends on matchups. Like Montez Sweat on Sunday, You'll probably see AVP put some, well, he should put some extra attention, especially on third down when you got Sweat back there. But, some of it also, Kyle, it's inexcusable. Bedard has written about this a lot, but the lack of a plan for Jeffrey Simmons last week, that's on Alex Van Pelt. And to play Layden Robinson at right guard when you're playing against Simmons, that's just a brutal decision. That makes no sense. But I get your overall point. You are correct, sir. Thank you for the 10. And then Kyle jumps back in and he says, not excusing AVP. It also limits Gibson carries. Yeah, it does. But you could still play Gibson out there with single back. You can still play him a little bit more. You can also put Gibson out there as a receiver in the slot, right? You can move Gibson around a little bit more. I think this offense has lacked creativity from the beginning. So they could do more there. All right, let's get to the prediction. Before I get to my game prediction, I know some people might think that this is like, me sitting on the fence and all of that, or trying to excuse my 5-4 against the spread record. Here's what I'll say. This year has been ridiculously difficult to predict. You've had, so much change happening with injuries, with guys in and out of the lineup, with the coaching staff, the offensive line shuffles, and you have lots of mediocre to bad football teams playing each other, right? The Miami game, the Jacksonville game, last week, Tennessee. Those kinds of games are very difficult to predict, especially when you have new coaching staffs like last week going against each other. It's been a very difficult year to predict against the spread. So let's look at this week. Again, I'm 5-4 on the season. Chicago is giving 6.5. Over-under is 38.5. Now, here's what I have to expect at this point. And I think this is what many of you, if not all of you, are also expecting at this point. Number one, the Patriots will not be able to run the football consistently. Even though Chicago's defense stinks against the run, as I said earlier, we've seen this movie before. The Patriots have not been able to run the football against good run defenses, against bad run defenses. Until I see them capable of running the ball, I have to believe they will not be able to run the ball consistently. And of course, that means you're looking at a lot of third and medium, third and long, which will be very difficult for Drake Maye against this Chicago pass defense and this Chicago pass rush. I also expect Drake Maye to turn the football over at least once, if not twice, in this game on Sunday. Chicago has 15 takeaways, and Drake Maye, one of his biggest issues so far since starting, is he's turned the football over. You can understand it. He's young. He makes mistakes. This Chicago defense forces mistakes. So I expect Drake Maye to turn the ball over once or twice. I also think, even though Chicago has not consistently been able to run the football, and they have two backup tackles, I also think that Chicago will be able to run the ball. Why? Because we've seen this movie before. The Patriots defense, even going against offenses that have not been able to run the ball consistently, have given up the run consistently. So until I see this football team capable of running the ball and stopping the run, I have to expect them to be incapable of running the ball and stopping the run. That's what I expect. So with that in mind, I think Chicago wins this football game. I'm going to go with 23-16. Now, this is difficult because, again, it's a -6.5. So the hook is the difference. I've got Chicago 23. I've got the Patriots 16. I just don't think the Patriots will be able to score 2 touchdowns in this game against this defense, unless you get a turnover or you get a special team touchdown. But I don't think the Patriots will score 2 touchdowns. So I'm going Chicago 23, New England 16. So I would lay the points. I'm not super confident. I mean, if you look at it again, you got a half-point difference on the spread, and you got a half-point difference on the over-under. My over-under total is 39. It's 38.5. Yeesh. I'd stay away from this game. But if you ask me where I would be leaning, I would believe the over in Chicago more than I would believe the under in New England. So that's kind of how I'm leaning. So I go Chicago 23, Patriots 16. That is your final score. Patriots fall to 2-8 on the season. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Trying to hit 5,000 subscribers. We're less than 100 away. Trying to get there by Thanksgiving, Turkey Day, gobble, gobble. So don't forget to give us that thumbs up to help drive engagement. Don't forget to throw a comment in. What do you think about this game? What do you think about my prediction? What do you think about this podcast? Comments. Those help engagement, and subscribing helps, of course, as always. Enjoy your weekend. Have fun. Be safe. Enjoy the football. We're back on Monday, 3 p.m. live to react to this game. Caleb Williams versus Drake Maye, the showdown. Can't wait to watch the two rookie quarterbacks on Sunday.